Then, like, and along the lines of that, like, we'll say, "Oh, you reject the family proclamation." I know that's
yeah. Here's what I reject. Right? I am not a fan of rigid gender roles because I have, in my professional experience, it creates pain.
Do you see the assumption in this? The assumption is that the family proclamation, as it's written, enforces rigid gender roles.
And creates pain.
Yep. Okay. The family proclamation does not enforce rigid gender roles. It does talk about gender roles and that they exist in the plan of God, but not that they're rigid. In fact, it quite explicitly says that, hey, look, this is sort of the norm.
They can be adapted.
But these can be adapted. Like we know that the world is messy, and so this isn't always going to be the case. But in general, men are endowed in a particular way that they tend to fit this role. Women are endowed in a particular way that they fit this role. And like, but for her, she goes and immediately interprets it in the most cynical feminist light, right? And just so everyone knows, like, I'm not some rabid sort of anti-feminist. I think there is a version of feminism that can actually be quite good and is quite important. I'm a big believer in first wave feminism, for instance, but it has evolved into an second and third and fourth wave feminism to where it's just like unrecognizable. And anyway, that's a whole other subject. But I just wanted people to know that I'm not coming from that particular point of view when I say feminism, but there are later forms of feminism which ideologically run totally contrary to our ideas and doctrines in the church. And it seems as though when she talks about her feminism, she's not just talking about like, hey, women should have the right to vote, right? Or equal rights before the law. Right. This is a redefinition of what womanhood is itself. And I actually did an entire video on it, so I'm not going to go into it here. So let's just get back to what she was saying.
People don't feel like they measure up. They don't feel supported in having a different family formation. I think there are multiple family types that are valid.
And based on her other posts, I think we know she's talking about gay families as included in this.
Well, go back 5 seconds. Let me hear exactly how she said it. Say that one more time.
Okay, what are we at here?
They measure up. They don't feel supported in having a different family formation. I think there are multiple family types that are valid.
There are multiple family types that are valid. Does Bridger ask her what she meant by that?
No, he agrees. So let's watch what he says.
Okay.
So, yeah, I disagree with, there's a paragraph that I disagree with. Are there lots that I agree with? Yeah. I think it's awesome. Like, we are children of heavenly parents. Amen. You know, family is important. That's great. There's a lot of the thing, you know, you should play together. You should do wholesome activity. Like, great. I love it. And there are things.
This reminds me of the clip. I don't know if you have it, but there's a clip of Elder President Eyring back in the day where he's basically like, there are people in the church who, when prophets speak, if it is convenient to them.
Let's continue.
Do you have that? I think
do have it. It'll come up. I don't know if it comes up here, but we'll see it eventually.
It's this exactly.
Things in it that create a lot of pain and that hurt people, and I'm not a fan of that. Because
this is another theme you're going to notice with her. If it hurts people, meaning if it makes them uncomfortable, and believe me, like, that's one of the things about the gospel. Like, you learn about the ideals of the gospel, and it makes you very uncomfortable. You begin to realize your own sin. There's this great quote by C.S. Lewis that says the gospel doesn't start in comfort. It's ultimately very comforting, but it doesn't start there. It starts in immense discomfort when you realize how far short of the moral law you actually are and how incredibly flawed you are. But that's the first part of the gospel. And if you don't get the first part, if you don't get the discomfort, the second part will never speak to you because you never think you need to be saved unless you realize that you're broken in the first place.
Well, it goes back to what John Dehlin said about the atonement starts with we are broken and we need to be healed. And it's like, yes, that's exactly right.
I think it's unnecessary. I think it could be revised in a way that didn't hurt a lot of people.
Those who do not fully understand the Father's loving plan for his children may consider this family proclamation no more than a changeable statement of policy. In contrast, we affirm that the family proclamation, founded on unchangeable doctrine, defines the kind of family relationships where the most important part of our eternal development can occur.
Boom. Mic drop from Elder Oaks there, right?
What if I told you that a certain commandment hurt me, or that I couldn't be, because a commandment exists, that I can't do what I want to do, and therefore it's hurting to me, right? If I'm the judge of how hurt I am, or if I am hurt, how far are you willing to go to say, okay, yeah, like we should make some changes because you are being hurt? Where does it stop?
I am a bisexual, and therefore, in order for me to live authentically in my life, I'm going to need to not only have sexual relationships with a woman, I'm going to need to have sexual relationships with a man. Yeah. And therefore, it would necessitate logically, and I think Blair Ostler actually pushes this to its logical conclusion as a bisexual woman with her book, Queer Mormon Theology, where that necessitates polygamy. Yep. It necessitates polygamy. And so that I then can authentically and morally legitimately live who I am as a bisexual person.
Yep. And is Julie Hanks willing to agree? Like, I don't know how her standard is if it hurts somebody, and the standard of someone is hurt is only determined by the person who's being hurt.
Is the church I'm a bisexual person, right? Let's say if I'm a bisexual person, is the church going to discriminate against me and my alternative family formation? Me and my husband and my wife, we all love each other. And is there are you making we're less than because do you see where this, you can't go this far and no farther. No. If the standard is it hurts people, these are consenting adults who love one another. Yeah. and what the family proclamation does, it actually draws lines, and it says, no, outside of this male-female union of two people who have children and who generally adopt these roles, but they can be adjusted based on circumstance. This is as Elder Oak said, the ideal way to form the family formation that actually leads to our greatest thriving, right? And that is our doctrine. And she's just like, no, that's mean. And and like you said, there's no basis. It's just meh.
Well, her basis is her worldview. Now, there's a quote actually that I want to share. This is Elder Christofferson, who's awesome, by the way. He gave a talk in October 2020 called Sustainable Societies. Okay. And listen to this. He says, talking about how far do we take this? He says, a society, for example, in which individual consent is the only constraint on sexual activity is a society in decay. In other words, sounds like that's what she may advocate for. And I'd be curious to know, right, if her standard is it hurts me, and if I can't live my true life by having sexual relationship with multiple people in or out of marriage, and that's hurting to me, does that mean the church has it wrong because it's hurting? So I really would love to see how far she wants to take that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm in the same boat as you there. I love the family proclamation. I support it. My only problem with it is what it doesn't include. I think
that's the pain.
I think it leaves out some things that I would personally add in, but again, it's not my job to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
what are they?
Yeah, that's my thing with the family proclamation.
Yeah, what are they?
Yeah.
What are they? What are they, Julie? Why aren't we being specific here? Why are you guys hiding the ball? Come out and say it. But I include some more stuff in this video as we continue here to show it's pretty clear what they mean, right? Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see what they're saying.
It's just I would add a little bit more in there that would highlight other groups and allow more room for nuance where maybe there isn't.
Right. I'm exactly where you are.
So I want to add a bunch more, but let's see where this leads.
I thought you.
So this, I want to pause here. This is from the original video that I did on her. So she interviewed Stacy Harkey. Stacey Harkey was pretty well known at BYU because he was part of Studio C for a long time, and really funny guy. Comes out of the closet, I think either after he left BYU or right before he finished at BYU, and she then a few years later interviews him as someone who she sees as thriving. He's embraced his gay lifestyle. He's living authentically, and so let's just listen in here to and just think. Is this a person who thinks homosexual behavior or homosexual marriage is sinful? And if it's not sinful, I think it puts a lot of these other things because from her worldview, let's give the devil's due. If indeed the church is wrong on this, and homosexual behavior is just as legitimate as heterosexual behavior, morally speaking, then the church is in grave error, like horribly persecuting people that love each other. And this is just, the church is way off the rails. Okay. And so her worldview becomes more understandable when you take into account that she doesn't hold the same presupposition that we do about the nature of what constitutes moral sexual behavior. So let's watch this and it should be obvious what she thinks on this matter.
Would be a great person because you seem to have really come into your own and found your purpose. So
he's found his purpose. Okay. He posted when he left BYU, said, me, black and gay, leaving BYU with a diploma, I'm going to use to do black and gay stuff. So he had some strong feelings about, hey, I got my diploma. I'm gay. See y'all later. I'm going to go and live a gay lifestyle. And she's like, hey, you're out there living your authentic life. So let's continue.
I want to know the secrets.
And for the first time in my life, I felt really good about my sexuality. Felt like it was the first time I felt like.
Notice her clapping her hands as he says that.
Denying myself, I'm essentially denying one of his most beautiful creations.
These false prophets.
So I'm going to read a few of these. She has some quotes here that, first of all, she posted, the Family Proclamation to the World. I have come to understand that it was first drafted as a legal document, an amicus brief to fight against same-sex marriage in Hawaii. Something the same sex of individuals, the biological and physiological characteristics different to gender. Gender is the social construct of what is considered masculine and feminine. I view both sex and gender on a spectrum rather than binary based on my reading and researching the topic. So basically saying the Family Proclamation was just some legal document, and my research has come to the conclusion that its teachings that there are males and females, that it's a binary, are false based on her research. And then she says in another tweet, she says, the belief that LGBTQ folks need to live a life of celibacy and loneliness has contributed to a sense of worthlessness, hopelessness, and high rates of suicide amongst LGBTQ church members. Quick translation, the church's teachings lead people to suicide. And she says about the Family Proclamation, the document also leaves no room for LGBTQ plus people, which is such a source of pain for many. So we know what she thinks about the Family Proclamation and about gay marriage.
I don't know if you have the clip for that bigger quote here on the bottom left side of the screen. I don't know if you have the clip, but I'm pretty sure she tells Bridger that if the church says one thing and research says another, that she'll go with the research. I don't know.
And my thing is you go with what's true.
Right.
Okay. Like the church could be wrong. Maybe the research is right. Fine, whatever. But you go with what's true. Okay. And for her to just kind of say, well, if the research says it, then there's sort of an assumption that it must be true, right, I think is a problem. But let's listen to what Elder Ballard has to say about those who have her point of view.
Is one of his most beautiful creations.
These false prophets and false teachers even attack the inspired proclamation on the family issued to the world in 1995 by the First Presidency and the 12 Apostles.
And it feels so much like your typical Marvel story or some superhero story where it's this thing that I hated so much ends up being one of my greatest strengths. And
your superpower.
My superpower is gay. It is. It really is. Anyways, and so I moved farther. I started going on dates, and I was experiencing feelings and excitement and things I'd never experienced before. And I was like, this is pretty good. And so I process, and now here I am. I've been out since 2018. I've dated wonderful men. I've had some long-term relationships, short terms. Okay, I'm like rambling now, but
I love it. No, you're great. This is great. This is exactly, we want to hear your story and how you became more authentic. I also am not a fan of how it came to be and that no women were consulted in its development. And I think for a church that kind of claims like women are in charge of family life, to have a proclamation on the family that doesn't include the voice of women is very problematic.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you want more content, including the podcast, go to thoughtful-faith.com. Thanks for watching.